Hey everyone, I'm Frank and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey,
And I got to say this, I've been thinking about this for a little while. A lot of people know Andy. About 3 months ago, maybe 4, he had a nasty fall and went to the hospital to see him. And what I really noticed wasn't so much about what was going on with Andy, was about Laura and how she was really doing service work. Even though, you know, they're in a relationship, I'm trying to bring that into the picture. It was impressive to see. She wasn't there for 30 minutes or an hour. She had been there for a long time, and she was there a long time after I left. And that's the kind of examples I need to see, not whether it's in Alcoholics Anonymous, just as seeing that in the public. And that stuck with me in my head. But just wanted to bring that up because I've been thinking about it. Anyway, my sobriety date's April the 20th of 2005. And prior to that, I had a lot of sobriety dates. And if you're in here tonight and you keep picking up these white chips, there's an old adage, keep coming back, and that's what I did. There wasn't a whole lot of people that were like asking me to come around, you know, and if you're drunk like I was or doing other things, your family keeps a good eye on you. And so, you know, when it was time to go to AA, they were like, about time to go to a meeting, isn't it? And, you know, it got to the point that if I had a car, they wouldn't even let me keep the keys to the car that I was driving. And I'll jump around a lot. I grew up over in South Carolina. I was born in Raleigh, lived there a couple of years, and then we lived in South Carolina, a little town named Sherall. Probably don't mean a whole lot to a lot of people, but to me it was the greatest place on earth. It's where my roots were from the age of like 2 to 12. And I remember a lot about that era and the area. Remember I had a dog, loved my dog, and had a lot of conversations with that dog. And my mom and dad, they did the best they could. I know that today. And they drank every day. And I would later come to pick up on that myself. But there was a lot of things that happened in that house. My dad was a Wake Forest graduate. My mom was an 8th grade dropout. Opposites attract, I guess. You know, and when they met in Albemarle, and you know, they both were drinking, and she was working a little cafe. I don't know if he was coming through the town or whatever, but they met, and anyway, we landed over there in Sherall, and got a brother that's like 12 years older than me. He's a half brother, but he's my brother. He's really been the rock in my life. And when I say that, as a kid growing up, when there's a lot of instability in a home, you know, it makes sense why I'm insecure and unstable. Current today, that is. And I found out that shit don't change overnight. They talk about this thing's a daily deal, where we do it for the rest of our lifetime, and it makes sense. My sister is a couple years older than myself, and I'd say she's just a nice person. You know, I spoke to her on the phone. She's so nice. Sometimes she calls. I'm like, what? You know, I mean, she hey, how you doing? And, you know, she really is a nice person. But there was a lot of drinking that went on in our home, and there were just a lot of things that when I look back on, I still remember them just as clear as day. Some scars, I guess, or memories, whichever one you want to call them. But the drinking was a constant thing. There wasn't any other substances going on in the 60s and 70s in our home, but there was a lot of drinking. A lot of cigarette smoking, a lot of Charlie Pride, a lot of Hank Williams Sr. A lot of people know Jr., but it was Sr. back then. And all that partying and stuff they would do, I hated it. I hated our home, I hated our life, and I hated alcohol. Like, I had a resentment against alcohol, a big one. You know, the guy from the liquor store would show up at our door, and I'd open the door, and he would have a brown bag of liquor, and he'd say, this is for your dad. And what I really wanted to do was take it and pour it out, but you know what comes with that, it's an ass whooping, you know, because that's a damn piece of gold to him, you know. I get that, you know, because had anybody done that with my substances, there'd have been a problem, you know, I'm not saying it would have been it would have just been a problem. But so anyway, we moved from that town in 75 or 76. We moved to near Charleston, a little town named Somerville. We lived there a couple of years. And we moved from there to Wilmington, where I would live for the next 25, 30 years. Went to high school there, graduated at Laney in 1980. It was terrible. This is the reality in my life, is I've always been a shortcut kind of guy. I've always wanted you to do the work and me to reap the benefits. It's true in here. What I've noticed is that when I lay when I drink up until the age of, or if I start drinking at the age of 20, then that's when I stop growing, quote unquote, mature wise. And I would have to say that's very accurate in my life. I was a late bloomer. I'm not the guy that started drinking at 7 or 8 or 10. And, I didn't start drinking really till I was like 20, 19. Didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. Didn't like puking. Didn't like what it did to me. But there was a time when it would come up. I was constantly hanging around guys a little bit older than myself. Maybe 4 or 5 years older than myself. And so it was on a Saturday. We were over at my buddy's house, Daryl, and his buddy was painting. Some artist. I'm like, that looks boring, but he was really good at it. And he said, "Here, you want to try one of those?" It was about 11 o'clock. And I'm like, "Well, what is it?" And he told me what it was, and I said, "Well, sure. Why not?" So me and my friend, we did. And I respect Alcoholics Anonymous. It was a substance that I would end up start doing it for the next 20-something years. And what I liked about it, though, is when I would drink, it would give me up, down, kind of keep me somewhere in the middle. And but I got connected to that pretty quick. And what I got from my dad was, because my dad was a good provider for our household, is go out and work hard and make a lot of money. And that's what I got. My dad was also a man that he didn't have a lot of jokes. He didn't play a lot of pranks. Like if you were to set him here and me here and a divider, I would talk and he would talk and say, well, them two are not related, and it would appear as though we weren't. But I love my dad, and I will say this. There was a lot of people at his funeral. He died in 98. He was sober like 18 to 20 years when he died through Alcoholics Anonymous. My mom, who has now been sober probably 30 years, got sober not through Alcoholics Anonymous. So it just goes to show, as AA says, we don't have a monopoly on staying sober, but what we know is that this works, and that's what I'm here to talk about is Alcoholics Anonymous. Because the truth of the matter is, I can talk a drunk log all night long, but the big deal, if you're sitting in here, is how do I get sober and stay sober, and that's the big part of it there for me, because that's been always my problem. Is I get sober for maybe a few days, maybe a week. If there's a girl involved, I'm really trying to toe my feet to the line for maybe a month. Like she tells me I'm gonna leave if you do it again, and I know it's coming because I don't have the power not to let it come. And so those were the things that would try to keep me from drinking. And I remember one time I was really in a bad spot, and I was talking to a man, and I said, "That's it. I'm done. I'm not going to drink anymore." And he said, "Has it ever occurred to you that you might not be able to do that?" And with all the failed attempts before that, I didn't have anything I could really say back. If you're a person like me and you've tried every single way not to drink, whether, like the book talks about, switching from this to that to this, starting a later day, let somebody hold your money, whatever the situation may be. If you're like me, you always drink no matter what. They say don't drink no matter what. I always drink or do other substances no matter what. And we stayed in Wilmington. I stayed there for like 30 years. Ended up working there out of high school. My parents moved to Edenton, North Carolina, right near Elizabeth City, near Outer Banks, up in that area. They lived there. That's where my dad passed away at. And my dad was from Wake Forest, right over here near Raleigh. And it's interesting now because when I go there to do business, I right past his grave. I go there and see his family, his mother, and where they're all buried at. But we lived there I lived there for like 30 years. What happened is the same old song and dance is, I drink, I tear shit down in my life, I somehow seem to put it back together or pull it back together for a short period of time, then I tear it down again. Do good, screw up. Do good, screw up. And you know what takes years to obtain, and I mean like a TV, a bed, you know, maybe a cell phone, you know, just the things that normal people like, no big deal. You know, I get prideful of that shit, and the next thing you know, it's, you know, I got people taking that shit out of there left and right. You know, what happened with me as time went on living in Wilmington is I justified the drinking another substance like this. I might be driving a really nice car, and I say, you know, I really don't need that car. I need to drive something a little bit cheaper. And so that's what I would do to lower the payment or not have one. Because what was taking on a more important role in my life was drinking and doing other things. And yeah, I don't really need to live at a certain place I'm living. I can live over here. And I would eventually find myself living behind a homeless shelter. That would go on and off for a year and a half. I'd end up going back to Albemarle where I had relatives. They'd come pick my sorry butt up and haul me back over there. Then I'd leave and go back and live down on the streets and stuff like that. Live in, you know, houses with no power and things like that. You know, but it was always the same old song and dance. You know, drink, go to treatment, come out, go to jail, get treatment. Same old song and dance. First treatment I ever went to center was in 95, 6, 7, I can't remember. Walter B. Jones in Greenville. Most of my life I've been a arrogant, pompous, egotistical person. You know, AA lets me call it how I see it now. You know, that's one of the great things about AA is I can come in here and expose myself because you know me. You know, you're not gonna come up in here and all that weak ass game and people been in here sober go, yeah, okay, wait, good enough. You know, they done seen that shit 1,000 times. That movie's over and over and over. But to make a long story short, that's went to that treatment center. I stayed there throughout the 30 days, and at the end of the 30 days, I went to my mom and dad's in Edenton. That night, I left to go out. I went to Elizabeth City. I went to a liquor house. I don't know about you. I got an easy way of sniffing that shit out. You know, I can always ride to the. I'm like, it's like I got a GPS to it. It's just I've never been to a liquor house over there. But I found one that night pretty quick. Went through a little bit of money and did what I do. And I was riding home. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and in my head I'm like, well, it is 2. It's not as bad as staying out all night. And I knew I was in trouble. Ended up after that repeating treatment center. Just the misery of that. You know, probably one of the scariest moments in my life was in 1987. I was legally married. My wife at the time had moved out, and that's what I want her to do. I want you to go. I want you to, you know, and then I can turn it up a little bit, and I can really do what I want to do, how I want to do it. And I came home with enough money to pay the bills, and I think I had like $120 left over. And I firm resolution. I said to myself, I'm done. That's it, because they're going to repossess one of these cars and this trailer I'm living in if I don't get these payments caught up. And I woke up on Monday morning, and I didn't have a penny, not a penny. And the fear or terror that came through me was indescribable. And I say that from the standpoint, at that time I didn't know, I knew I had a problem, a big problem, but I thought I could somehow get over it. But that night, and when I woke up that morning, on Monday morning, I'm like, I got to walk out of here. My neighbors are going to probably see me, and they're going to say, how you doing today? And I'm going to have to say, well, I'm doing good. How are you? And I didn't have enough gas money to even get to work. It's those kind of things that set the ball in motion, the misery, the loneliness. You know, I don't know if you've ever sat in your bedroom or sat in a car crying or wherever, but I knew I was screwed. And, you know, when you drink in certain areas and you do certain things and you see things happen, I don't ever think it's going to happen to me. Whatever that is. Like I read about it in the newspaper, this guy, he's drinking and driving, he runs into a kid or a woman, kills them. It ain't never going to happen to me. Shots and guns, and it's never going to happen. I'm so busy focused on getting drunk and getting high, I ain't worried about that. It's not going to happen to me. And I was fortunate that that those things, some of those things didn't happen. Most importantly, fortunate. I'll tell you what I have learned, and this is real important to connect the dots and come full circle. Those nights when I was in those liquor houses, those nights when I was walking the streets at 2, 3, 4 in the morning or 6 in the afternoon, I never knew that those were going to be the greatest assets in my life. You know, I don't know about you. I look at assets. I look at materialistic things and money. I don't look at shit like that. I mean, how's that going to be helpful? You got to be kidding me. But what I've learned in my time in Alcoholics Anonymous is that those are the things that when a man sits across from me and he's in trouble, and I'm telling him how I lived, he kind of perks up in his seat and he goes, wow. He said, you know, this guy lived kind of like I did. And there's an identification there. And then he says, well, how'd you get sober? So that's the big deal there. Everybody knows how to drink. Everybody knows how to do whatever. But the big deal is the staying sober part. And I knew what it was to get sober for a day or two or maybe a week, but not how to stay sober. I don't know how about you. I thought when I came here that my situation was different. Like mine was worse than yours. Like I know you got it bad, but I've heard you talk, but you didn't walk them streets. You weren't in those liquor houses when shit went down, and you didn't see the things that happened in our home. You know, I'm really screwed up, and I can't stop drinking. So your situation isn't as bad as mine, and I'm just here to tell you tonight that this whole thing is done on faith. You know, it's getting with somebody. In my experience, if you're a woman, with a man with a man, that knows how to live sober through Alcoholics Anonymous, whether it be the 12 and 12 or the big buck, that's either one. Sticking close to them and doing what they do. A man said one time, he said, you want to stay sober? Guy said, yeah. He said, well, you do what that dog does. He says, really? He said, that's stupid. He said, watch that dog. When that dog goes in the yard to shit, you go shit. He said, when that dog comes back and walks in circles, you walk in circles. When that dog eats, you eat. When that dog sleeps, you go to sleep. Sounds stupid, doesn't it? Do what the dog does. And that's kind of the dumb man approach, and that's what had to happen to me. I came here thinking I knew a lot, smarter than everybody, you know. But here's what I brought to Alcoholics Anonymous: a liar, a cheat, a thief, adulterer. You know, I did the best I could. I'm not going to sit here and tell you no lie. My goal when I was 23 years old wasn't to land up here in Alcoholics Anonymous broke, bankrupt, cars repossessed, credit score 400. That was not my goal. I was thinking stuff like living in a big house, having a great credit rate, having a beautiful wife, picket fence, and kids. That's what I was thinking about. It shit did not happen like that. You know, when liquor gets a hold of somebody, when liquor gets a hold of me, I chase wherever. I might end up in another county. Doesn't matter. Wherever it's at, it's free. That's where I'm going to go. My mom and dad, like I said, lived in Edenton, and there was one time my dad, he's a lot different in handling things the way I do. He's real calm and laid back, and he had a way of saying things that would just make me feel terrible. So he asked to call me on the phone one time. He said, son, he said, you had any speeding tickets? I'm like, no, I haven't had speeding tickets. Okay. He called back 2 weeks later. He said, are you sure you ain't had no speeding tickets? I'm like, no, I ain't had no speeding tickets. Okay. So about, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month later, he said, look, why don't you come up? Got a golf tournament up, playing the golf tournament so-and-so weekend? I said, absolutely. He went up there and played in the golf tournament. Saturday, Sunday afternoon, he said, son, would you mind coming in here? I didn't like the way that sounded. I was in another room. He's sitting there smoking his old Kents. He said, son, I'm disappointed in you. He didn't get angry. He didn't stomp. And some people don't have to curse and just show a lot of force to get the point across. I said, what are you talking about? He just opened up a drawer, He said, you know, you told me you didn't have any speeding tickets. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm a speeding ticket. I'm lying right there again. He said, you remember your aunt that works at the DMV up in Raleigh? My sister? I'm like, well, I mean, I know her, but I didn't know she worked up there. He scrolled it out. He said, so there's the driving record. He said, and it's current. He said, just take the keys and park that car over there. And if you want to get back to Wilmington, good luck with that one. And that's all he said. You know, he didn't scold, he didn't go into, you know, just disappointed, you know. And I believe that I'd like to be the guy that can handle things like that and get my point across that way. I'm just not that guy. You know? Yeah, that's right. So anyway, that's just the kind of example my dad was. He was an alcoholic by his own admission, but he was a good man. And but as far as the drinking went on, that's what would happen. You know, drink, get a treatment, go to a jail here, get out a week later down in South Carolina. I'd always go to Myrtle Beach to do it. I don't know why. I lived down there at a little river one time. I liked getting drunk and high in Myrtle Beach. And by the way, my relatives were 4 hours away, so that worked good for me. Anyway, but it didn't work so good when they'd have to come down there to get you out of jail, you know. But I had an enabler, and I'm going to tell you, this lady, she was my brother's ex-wife. I go back to when I was a kid, and my brother's name's Gary. His girlfriend's name was Mary. Gary and Mary. Gary and Mary got married. And I mean, I just never would expect them to ever not be together. Never. And when my brother moved out of the house, there went the stability in the house. So as a kid, I remember this like yesterday. We had these shears, double windows in the front here, and we had our living room here, the front door was there, the kitchen was here, Mom and Dad's bedroom was in the back. And on Fridays, I would go sit at that window, and I'd look and just hope he'd be coming back, because he moved away. He moved to Albemarle, and we were in Sharon. And I'd sit there for hours just hoping that he would show up. And sometimes he would, and sometimes he wouldn't. But he was, and he still is. He's a good man. He's 67 years old. He still cuts my mom and dad's grass every week when it needs cutting with a push lawnmower. It's about a half acre. To me, that's a man that takes care of their parents when they're getting old. There's a lot to be said about stuff like that. Anyway, as far as the drinking's concerned, you know, the big deal is I could not stop. I knew something had a hold of me. I didn't know it was called untreated alcoholism. You know, I came to AA for 12 years. I didn't do anything. I came because of circumstances, and the circumstances may be that I'm living at my brother's, and he says, you're going to go to these meetings, a treatment center. They said you need to, or once again, a relationship. You know, I never went for myself. And here's what I found out about that, is that until I do it for myself, for me, I know people that have come in here and their story was they did it for their wives, and I believe everything they said. It just wasn't my experience. But until I did it for myself, I didn't stay sober. And so what happened was in 2005, I came here, had no clue. They said, you want to go to a halfway house? And I'm like, well, yeah, because I owed a lot of people a lot of money, and I didn't want to go back. I mean, my experience has been that anytime I go back to where I lived at, I always got drunk and did what I did. So I came over here to the Bethesda house, and it's a privilege to be here tonight. It's a privilege to be sober, and it was a privilege to be at that halfway house. I'll never forget pulling up there, and I had a clear bag of clothes. It's a trash bag with your clothes in it, just balled up in there, you know. And no different than anybody else. You know, what I believe about alcoholics is this, and it's been my experience with working with alcoholics, it's the pain that drives me in here. It's the circumstances and the pain that drive me in here. It ain't going to keep me here, but that's what drove me here. I'm here to tell you, if the circumstances and the pain were lower and lower and lower, I wouldn't have surrendered, you know. So they dropped me off over here, and I go in, the guy in there, he'd been there a while, his name's Hoke. He says, He walked in. I said, hey, they said we need to get a sponsor. I ain't never got one of them. I said, you be my sponsor? He said, buddy, we work here. We can't sponsor nobody. He goes, what do you do for a living anyway? I said, well, I'm selling cars. He said, hell, you'll be driving 2 weeks. Come on, let me show you your bed. I'm like, damn, what kind of encouragement is that shit, man. Anyway, I go back there with him, and he says, here's your bed. And I'm like, hell, that's pretty nice there. And here's where you hang your clothes. And here's the showers. And we got towels. And we got soap. I'm like, man, you ain't got to pay no deposit. Got your own bed. Now back there, the room full of guys. Who gives a crap? You got a bed to sleep in. Sleep out in the woods for a long time and get a bed. That's pretty cool stuff. And the thing about that was, don't let me make it sound like I didn't have opportunity to have a bed. That's where drugs and alcohol take me. I don't care about a bed. So anyway, he said, by the way, supper's at 6. I think it was around 2. He said we eat 3 meals a day, morning, noon, and night. And we got a vehicle out here to haul you over to AA meetings. So I had to pay for no insurance, no gas, nowhere. Pretty good deal. And he said, you don't need to get it. They told you, you need to get a job. Your rent's like $90, I think it was back then, a week. And I'm like, I'm in on this deal, And so got a little job doing. They didn't want me doing what I was doing. They said, I want you to do this. I tried to do it for a while. If you're working, you're a man or a woman in here working in construction work, hanging sheetrock over your head, that's I commend you. I respect you more than I did before I started doing that at the age of 42. And carry a concrete bucket around, that's some work now, I'm telling you. Anyway, I did it for a couple of weeks. I said, man, I don't think I want to do that no more. I said, physically, I didn't come here on a winning streak in good physical shape. I said, it's taken me a while to get back in good shape. And they said, well, just whatever you got to do, you're going to have to pay your bills. And you got to go to these 4 meetings a week, too. So I got a problem with them meetings. So, kept coming to the meetings, and here's what happened. This is a big turning point for me. I wanted to have sex. I'm living in a halfway house. There's a guy that went to treatment with me, and he calls, hey, there's a girl, so-and-so, so-and-so, I'm going to call you this day, and we'll take her to have sex. I'm like, cool, do it. Phone rings, right, got a phone call, I got her in the hall, I'm in the Bethesda, and I say this not like it's the big joke in the story, but this was a turning point for me, and I didn't know that. He says, hey, meet me down here at the end of the park. Anybody knows where the end of the park is? Right at the very end, right down across the street. And I get in the car, and he's drunk, and he's living in a halfway house. And I'm like, dude, what's going on? He goes, we're getting ready to go over here to so-and-so, there's girls over there. I said, stop the car. He said, what? I said, I got to get out. I said, man, I wish you the best. I got to go. I don't think it was the girl and having the sex deal that scared me as much as him getting drunk. At that time, I did have a different sponsor, and he was 22 years sober. And if you think like I think, I come in here, I got to get the person with the most sobriety that's been sober the longest. And for some reason, that shit's going to rub off on me, or maybe that'll, I don't know. That's what I got to do. And that's what I did. And we weren't doing anything. Great man. He passed away, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. He was 22 years or 24 years sober at the time. His friend just passed away recently. They were very good friends. His friend passed away with over 30 years sobriety recently, within the last month. He'd come to where I was working. He said, how's car sales going? I said, they're going great. How's your golf game? He said, well, pretty good. Buggy here, par here. We weren't doing the step work. So I'm going to get into the recovery part now. And sitting over here about where Lonnie's sitting at, I'm sitting over here chairing a meeting, probably 5, 4, 6 months sober, don't know the exact date. Guy in the military, never seen him here before in my life. He's sitting over there. And what he said was something that caught my attention. The topic was on trust. We're coming AA, well, I don't know if I can trust these people. Are you kidding me? They're just trying to help you. We out there in the streets, like, here's $20, I hope you're going to come back. Go ahead, I'm going to trust you. But yeah, that's how, I don't know about you, that's kind of, see anyway, here's what he said, the topic he shared kind of at the end of the meeting. He said, I come to the meetings because I love you. He said, I lock the doors on my truck because I know you. And I went, whoa, there's some wisdom there now. I like that. And he wasn't being aggressive in saying that. I mean, this is Alcoholics Anonymous. I think we locked our doors tonight. Most people probably did too. And so anyway, he came straight over and he said, I hear you're new. And I said, yes, sir. He's a military guy. I didn't know that. He said, what are you getting ready to do Friday night? I said, well, curfew is at, I think it's 11 at Bethesda. I'm not sure. I said, that was at 9 o'clock. I said, I got a curfew. It was either 10 or 11, I don't remember. And he said, you want to go get some coffee? So we ended up at Frankie's, and I'm sitting there, and I ended up talking so much, I started lying. All the truth came out. And he was listening to all this shit, just storing it away. And so I called a halfway house, and I said, hey, guys, I'm talking with a guy over here at Frankie's Coffee. You mind if I come in a little bit late? They go, we know you've probably been doing most of things right, so we're going to let you do that. That happened the next 2 Fridays in a row. He sat there, I sat there, he came up, what are you doing? Anyway, on the third Friday night, I looked at him, and what I had been doing at work was riding prostitute areas in company cars looking for prostitutes. And I knew I was getting ready to get drunk, doing no step work, reading out the book, praying a little bit, doing a few other things, but no step work. I don't know what I'm reading. If you've read that book before when you had nobody go through it with you and you understood it, stand up. I've never met a soul. Not so much as understood it, but you could apply it, understood what they were trying to get me to do. It's not a novel, it's an instruction manual, and that's what it is for us. Meaning me and the sponsor I have. And he says, I said, I had tears come in my eyes. I said, man, would you sponsor me? And he said, I thought you said you had a sponsor. And I said, I do have a sponsor, but we're not doing nothing, man. I'm about to get drunk, and I told him about riding the prostitute areas, in the middle of the day with a company car, federal or franchise dealer tag on the back of it, like just blurring out. And he said, let me tell you what I'll do. He said, you go to that man and you tell him thank you for everything that he's done for you. And after you do that, you come to me and we'll go from there. And I'm here to tell you, buddy, I made a beeline to get that handled. I had that handled that next night. I'll never forget it. I met Jack back at the coffee pot, and I looked at him. I said, Jack, you got a second? He said, yeah. I said, I want to tell you thank you for everything you've done for me. I've chosen a different route as far as sponsor. And he said, I really understand, Frank. And I went to the sponsor I currently have, Tom, and I said, sir, I did what you asked me to do. And, I didn't know what he was teaching me was how to exit a relationship properly. Because the way I normally exit relationships, I don't call them back. I don't talk to them. I just don't, especially if I see them coming, I just go the other way. And in AA, they teach us how to do things that we don't have to do that anymore. Pretty neat stuff. And, that's what I mean about the dumb men approach. When my ass got on fire bad enough, and I knew I'd done burned every bridge there was to burn, I couldn't borrow no more money from nobody. There was surely nobody going to loan me money. I know I was screwed. And most importantly, some of the things that were happening were life-threatening. And so anyway, he said, he said, so you did do that? I said, yeah. I said, would you be my sponsor? He said, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Don't answer them tonight. One is, you want to go to any length for victory over alcohol? And the next one is, are you really licked this time? And I don't follow directions well. And I said, yes, sir. He said, I just told you. Think about them. I don't know about you. I don't think about shit. I've always got an answer. You're talking. I'm already thinking what I'm going to tell you. And I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong. 80, 90% of my life I've been wrong. That's the truth. Anyway. So I said, I apologize, sir. I said, I'll think about it tonight. And I did. I went home. Couldn't wait to see him the next day. It's about like meeting a new girl, I don't know about you, but when your life's on the line, and this man has a solution for your situation, it's like, where the hell's he at? He was here, and I said, I thought about what you said, and the answer is, yes, sir, I'm licked this time, and I'll go to any length for victory over alcohol. He said, it'd be a privilege to be your sponsor. And we sat down at this table. He said some things that really made a lot of sense to me. If you've come to AA for a long time, it may make sense to you if you didn't stay sober. And I don't mean like dry drunk. I mean like having a life, enjoying life. with what AA does, gives you life to live. He said, just so you know, this isn't a spiritual program of attendance. He said it's a spiritual program of action. And I went, damn, that makes sense. You know, I heard another man say, he said, if you do, and I'm listening to the CD, he's talking to me, if you do what most people do in AA do, you get drunk. And I did do what most people do in AA do. We got up from that table, we walked back here in the back, he said, let me point something out to you. He started with the bag of white chips. He said, send me in that white chip bag. If you go back there tonight, I don't know how many's back there, but it's probably a lot. If it's full bag, you got to keep a lot of white chips for people like me. Then you look at the 5-year chip bag, and you see there's only like 5 in there. He said, this ain't for wimps. This ain't for wimps. He said, if it was that easy, he said, you wouldn't have the difference in the numbers. He said, you picked up a lot of white chips, didn't you? I said, a ton. And then he said something, probably one of the most important things he's ever said to me. He said, just so you know, he said, you've got what it takes to stay sober. It really puzzled me. What are you talking about? He said, you remember all those nights that you told me, or days that you told me that you had to walk X amount of miles, your foot was, your heel was crushed, you walking, all that stuff, you jumped through that house, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning through the window and took that TV and give it to us. You remember all that stuff? I'm like, yeah. He said, Frank, that's willingness. He said, it's just been misdirected. And what I've come to know about Alcoholics Anonymous in my experience is back in the back of the book on that, whatever number it is, I ain't trying to quote the book, 567, 76, whatever. The first principle is not honesty and it ain't open-mindedness, it's willingness. If I'll do the things that are asking me to do, my life will get better. So I started asking him things like, hey, when do you think I'll meet a girl? He said, I don't know. He said, what I know is God's got all the women in the world, and when he wants you to have one, he'll put one in front of you. I don't like answers like that. I'm thinking like Thursday. I mean, I'm telling you, I want some damn results quick. See, and that's what would happen when I would drink and do those other substances. I would get an immediate effect. Like, I'm a quick gratification kind of guy. I want shit to happen like now. And that ain't the way it happens in here. Not for me. This is probably the only thing that I've ever applied myself at that things got much better. And isn't it interesting because it's about me? I never read a book. I don't read books now. But you look at my book that I have in AA, that something just tore apart. It's got marks on it. It's got comments and words because it's about me. I've never invested as much time, energy, or money as I have in Alcoholics Anonymous. Meaning not so much the money part, the time or the energy. You know, when I knew that I was in a lot of trouble, I knew I had better pay attention. And that's what I would do when we would sit down. We'd meet at his house and do step work. And I'll never forget, because we got the 3rd step, and I don't know, I'm a guy that if I can't see it, smell it, feel it, or touch it, I don't believe it. So there's a chapter, and it's called We Agnostics. And he said, this chapter's not put in here to prove there's a higher power. It's put in here so if you'll get out of the way, he'll prove he is a higher power. He said, just do what's asked you to do. Shake hands with men you don't know, and make coffee, and take trash out. Do the things you can do. Life will get better. And I'm here to tell you, life has gotten a lot better in all areas. The only one that's ever screwed my life up is me. I'm the only one that can do that. That's just the reality. That's drunk or sober. Sober, mind you. So he told me this. He said, Frank, he said, it was always if you stay sober. He said, if you stay sober, one day there will be a man that'll come to you and he'll say, hey, I need your help. I can't stay sober, and I was wondering if you'd sponsor me. He said, now, you don't change anything, you don't add nothing to it, you just do what we do. So that day came, and guy asked me to sponsor him. I asked him 2 questions. He went on, he came back the next day, answered questions yes, privileged to be his sponsor. I got So it started going. I've been listening to CD tapes. Now, they're pretty inspirational. I don't know if you guys have listened to, or ladies have listened to a lot of, but got a lot of great stuff. Went to the conference in Raleigh back in July. The guy was phenomenal. There was a lot of great speakers, but the guy he really touched me. And so I heard something on the CD, and I started having the guy do it. So I go to Tom, I say, check this out. I got this guy, he's doing so-and-so and so-and-so. He said, really? I said, well, yeah. He said, where'd you get that at? I said, off that CD you gave me. He goes, did we do that? I know, huh? No. He said, well, then that ain't your experience, is it? I said, no, sir. He said, well, you go make amends to him, tell him to stop doing it. So I did. That's one thing that when my sponsor tells me to do something, I'll tell you, I probably haven't talked to him in a while because there's probably some things he's going to tell me to do I don't want to do, but I did. I've pretty much done the things he asked me to do. I think to me he's a great man. He's a great sponsor. You know, he's not the kind of guy that belittles me, talks down to me. He's not the kind of guy he told me before, he said, now look, if you want to do this stuff, that's okay. So I'm going to just lay my head on the pillow at night and go to bed. I'm just telling you. He said, I'm going to sleep good at night. He kind of let me know that if I was going to have to invest in my life, nobody's going to do this for me. You know, my mama, my daddy, my big brother, everybody's always toted the note for me. That ain't the way it works here. You know, it just don't. You know, I've always taken too big a chunks out of life. Harold said it so good at the colony. He said, inch by inch is a cinch and yard by yard is hard. So I can identify with some wisdom like that. You know, if you make as many mistakes as I've made in life, when people say shit like that, it's so simple, you go, damn, that's just a pearl. Jeez, did you hear what he said? Like, yeah, I heard it. I'm like, wow, man, that was incredible. Really? So I'm going to end with a little story. A friend of mine from South, down there in Sherrall, his name's Jack. He told this story, spent my life in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's about a man who's an alcoholic and he's got a son. And his son comes up to him and he says, Dad, can we throw a ball? Dad looks at the little boy while he's drinking. He says, not right now, son, come back. We'll throw a ball later. The little boy comes back, says, Dad, can we throw a ball now? He says, no, son. Not right now. And the man noticed a picture of the world on a newspaper. And he said, hold on. He tore it up in a bunch of pieces, threw it on the floor. He said, son, when you put that back together, he said, we'll throw a ball. Little boy got down there. No time. He had that thing put back together. His dad was amazed. He handed it to his dad, and his dad just looked and said, my God. He said, son, how did you do this? And the young man replied, he said, Dad, on the other side was a picture of a man. And the moral of the story, which has been my life in AA, is that when God puts the man back together, the world will come. And that's been my life here. Thanks for asking me to speak tonight.